So thank you, Rob. Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Fairclough. I am the Customer Success Manager for SketchUp and 3D visualization here at ElmTech. ElmTech are the distribution arm of Man & Machine, and we are suppliers of things like SketchUp, of course, products from the Chaos Group such as Enscape, V-Ray, digital and creative hardware such as 3D Connection for Space Mouse, whatever, Space Pilot, all these different things, and graphics hardware from NVIDIA, PNY, AMD, and Matrox. We also supply a whole range of other software related to SketchUp and visualization too. If there's ever any of the things that we're showing here that you need, get in touch with us here at ElmTech or contact your Man & Machine account manager who can help you out with these things. So my role here at ElmTech is to be good at using SketchUp and the 3D visualization software. So today what we wanted to do was go through some of the new features that have come with SketchUp version 2024, or SketchUp for desktop, as we are increasingly referring to it as. And we'll have a look at some of the new parts. I'll hopefully show you a few kind of tips and tricks that you might not have known about. And we might have a look at an extension or two as well. So let's get going with that. Let's just skip forwards a couple of slides. There are lots of new features in SketchUp 2024, but I wanted to talk about probably 3 or 4 of these different things. And we're going to headline that with the really big improvements to SketchUp's performance. Now, let's actually just jump in and show this to begin with. I think this is the best way to go ahead and do this. I'm just going to open up a file down here in SketchUp 2023. Now, if you are a SketchUp user, here's a big model. This is a Revit model. It's been imported from a Revit sample file. This is sort of typical of a detailed large-scale model, I suppose. But as I'm moving around here, it's a little bit jerky, but there's a lot of detail within this model here. I'm just going to reset it back to the original scene here. Now, this is something that's not always easy to show, but I'm going to try and describe and show what's going on here. The best thing you can do is try SketchUp 2024 for yourself. But what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to jump into this developer menu, and I'm going to use this little console command here, which is called test time display. And if I just hit that, what it does is it will spin around 360 degrees as fast as it possibly can. And as you can see there, it sort of chugged around, and it'll actually give us the average time that it took for every single step of that animation to happen. Now here there's 72 frames of animation going around, and it took 0.08 seconds to render every single one of those frames. We have an average of 11 frames per second that SketchUp could actually render at this point. Just to give you some context there, your mouse on your computer typically updates at around about 60 frames a second. So ideally, we want every little movement of our mouse as we zoom in and out, move around, pan. We want SketchUp to be able to keep up with your mouse at the very, very least. As we can see there in that particular example, in a real world model, we fell quite short of that 60 frames a second with 11 frames a second. And this will be something you probably all experience, just general kind of clagginess and slowness. Not so much a problem because we're not like doing a high-speed, twitchy computer game here or anything like that. However, it impacts on the way that SketchUp feels. So let's jump across into the same model in SketchUp 2024, and we'll run the same code again. So it's test time display. You can do this on any model. You just type it in there, or paste it in as I'm doing, and we'll hit that. Now, as we can see there, this particular model, and bearing in mind my computer is being constrained a little bit by recording all of this, is that we are able to run that same setup, exactly the same model, 68 frames a second. So that is, 6 or almost 7 times faster, getting on for quite a big improvements there. And this is something you will see across every single model that you try. I can feel this just moving around, just turning like this. This is matching up with my mouse movements. As we move, zoom, it's all a lot nippier and smoother. and nicer. You know, that's what I want. I'm working on this all day. I want it to feel good. It feels really great. This is actually one of the biggest improvements in my eyes to SketchUp for a long time. And it's fantastic. This is also opening the doors to some other new things as well, which we can talk about in a second. So yeah, the way they've achieved this, they've moved the entire rendering engine of SketchUp. So SketchUp has its own renderer, which is the thing that shows what's on the screen, and they have replaced that with a more modern version of the renderer that was already there. They'll sometimes refer to it as a graphics engine. But if you want to be able to turn this on, this is available for modern GPUs only. It should be on by default, but if you do need to enable it, come down into the preferences, and under graphics, you'll have a couple of different options here. So you can use the new graphics engine, which is what we're using here, or you can revert it back to the old graphics engine, which was in SketchUp 2023. There are occasions where you might want to do that. There are certain plugins, certain renderers, extensions to SketchUp that maybe don't function so well right now with the new graphics engine. So we can just flip it back to the old one if we need to. One of the other advantages there, by using the new graphics engine, you can also force SketchUp to use a specific graphics card. So if you've got multiples and you're moving between multiple screens, or you're moving between high power modes, low power modes, and you're getting messages or things aren't feeling quite right, we can just tell SketchUp to always use your more powerful GPU there. So I'm going to use that one there. That's brilliant. And the same thing is there on Mac. So the render has been replaced. It's now using DirectX 12 on Windows. And this actually means that it functions a lot better with all sorts of other things. And on Mac as well, which also has the same renderer, this is now using Apple's Metal API, which is their graphics API. So some really great, huge improvements there, which opened the door for some other things. So we're going to have a look at one of those other things. We're going to have a look at one of the new functions of SketchUp, which is ambient occlusion. I'm just going to sign in again. And let's open up that file. It should be opening now. Oh no, let's open it there. Try that again. Brilliant. So I'm going to just jump into a model here. Be well familiar with how SketchUp kind of typically looks. We have got a few different options to be able to sort of change the styles. You've probably seen them in the styles section. We can, make things wireframe, different shading methods, textures. We can turn on dashed edges, profiles, depth cues, all these kinds of things. So these have always been there, have been there for a long time in SketchUp. But occasionally the kind of look of SketchUp isn't maybe perhaps quite what I would want. So in this occasion here, this particular model might benefit from a different way of representing it without needing to go to a full-on renderer. So SketchUp has a new function called ambient occlusion, which you can find in your view menu under face style, and it's here, ambient occlusion. Now, if I turn that on, that's a different way of essentially trying to replicate the way that light and shadows behave in very small areas. So this will work on sort of smaller models. You'll see it along very small sort of cracks in pavings or gaps in cabinetry, or in this case here, distances between these pipes. You won't necessarily see this on big models, but we can see we've got this kind of shading that's going on. Now, in itself here, perhaps doesn't look super obvious. If I just switch it to this mode here, we'll do a monochrome render only, and we can still see that we've got the edges turned on. I'm going to turn those off actually just to hide it. So we can see we've now got this ambient occlusion or AO based render style now. And this gives us a really nice look actually if you're needing a kind of schematic look that sort of sits somewhere between, I suppose, realism and a kind of illustration. So this will give us some extra options to be able to do things. And this is really nice if we're not wanting to represent our edges or curves or surfaces with those very SketchUp-y cartoon edges there. Really nice little option here. I think I've got the same thing twice. So ambient occlusion, you'll find that here in this area here. This is exclusive to the new render engine, so you'll need to be using that one. You need to have a machine that supports that new graphics engine that we just showed. But You can get some really, really nice effects with this. Really easy to turn on. Does impact your performance slightly, but that's hopefully been offset by the new render engine. So a couple of really nice new bits there. I think what we'll have a look at next is, very quickly, I'm going to have a look at the Trimble Connect integration that exists inside of SketchUp now. So I think we looked at this last year on the virtual summit. Trimble Connect is Trimble's cloud collaboration platform. Amongst other things, we're able to share files with other project users, with stakeholders, create view-only files. It's a little bit like kind of Google Docs, but for construction and 3D documentation. However, it kind of existed outside of SketchUp. There was a little bit of integration there, but it's actually the thing that powers all of the SketchUp cloud services. So what we can actually do now, directly from inside of SketchUp, I can actually save my model to Trimble Connect, which I can do by coming to Trimble Connect and doing Save to Trimble Connect. Now, if you're not familiar with how this works, we can choose the region in which our files are hosted. So if you've got kind of ISO requirements for IT, or where your clients are expecting your files to be stored, we can adhere to that, and we store everything in different projects. Inside of a project, we can control individuals that have access to that project, and we can have a folder structure and all the other kind of stuff. We can even sync that project directly with our desktop computer if we need to. So I'm just going to save my file into here. I've already got it in there, it turns out. I'm going to save it there, and we'll just see the little Trimble Connect is saving to the cloud. It's now indicated as being in the cloud. Now this gives us a couple of a whole bunch of really useful things that we can do. And this is one of the things I'm going to show you right now, which is to be able to share a link to a model. So now I've got that in the cloud. I can actually generate a shareable SketchUp link. I'm going to just copy that. I'm going to open a private window, so I'm not signed in actually, because you can actually send this link to anybody. They don't need a SketchUp account, they don't need a Trimble account, and they can view that file directly inside of a web browser without installing anything. Don't have the fancy new graphics engine here though, so it's a little bit jerkier. And they will have access to the basic SketchUp tools that you'll be familiar with. Quite importantly, as many customers have told us, tape measure tool if we need to take measurements, and that any scenes that you've saved or pre-configured views that have been saved should also be visible to them here. So I think I've got 3 scenes. Ambient occlusion isn't supported in the web version, unfortunately, not just yet. We can give our clients or colleagues access to that file, which they cannot download. So really useful. If we did want to look at the actual Trimble Connect interface very briefly, one of the things I also really like about Trimble Connect is that it versions our files every time we save. Oh, that's not my email address. Let's try that again. Oh, it's because I'm in a private window. Of course I am. Let me do that. Wondered why it was asking me to sign in again. It's connect.trimble.com. And we'll sign in here. So I think I put this in my staging project. So this is the web interface for Trimble Connect. There's a desktop client, there's a phone client, there's all kinds of things. So we can store all kinds of different files in here. The one that I had just saved here was this ambient occlusion.skp. One of the things that I really like about using Trimble Connect to store my files is it actually keeps a version history. So I can actually see every single version of that file that, that exists. Every time I've saved inside of SketchUp using that Save to Trimble Connect option, it will have actually created a version. And I can actually go back in time and I can download any snapshot of that model as it was when I hit save, which is amazing. You may have been there in the past where you've accidentally deleted something and you've purged it and then it's gone, and you're like, what have I done with it? Well, there we go. You could actually go back to a file from 2 days ago, or 3 weeks ago, or a year ago, and grab those bits in, and then paste them in place back into your file. Really useful. And so Trimble Connect, a little bit sort of more closely integrated now inside of SketchUp, and that exists now inside of all the versions of SketchUp. So we have Trimble Connect inside of SketchUp for Desktop 2024 here. We have it inside of SketchUp for iPad, inside of SketchUp for web. All the SketchUp clients have access to that, and that means that you can really easily move between machines, of course, without having to have your physical local files with you. So you can open a file, do some work on it on the iPad, save it. You can open that straight away on the desktop. You can open it in the web if you've not got access to any of the software at that point in time. You can send them to clients. You can do all this really useful stuff. Not useful for everybody, but I'm sure most people would find something there that will benefit them. So there's a few little bits and pieces. I'm actually going to open a new file, and we're going to have a look at another kind of new or improved function in SketchUp 2024. And that is the add location function. So this is something that's been a sort of staple of SketchUp for quite a long time. This kind of stems back to that short period of time when Google owned SketchUp. But as a maps company themselves, Trimble have carried this on. So I'm going to actually just jump into, I'm going to have a look at the city of Edinburgh. And we see we've got a different interface to add location to what we used to have. And what am I looking for? I'm going to just drag this pin over here. A couple of little improvements straight away. We'll notice that when we geolocate our model, we actually get the solar north being shown as visible to us. Normally, it depends a little bit on where in the world you are, but normally the north is orientated with the green axis, but the solar north is now highlighted. You can obviously change that inside of SketchUp as well if you really need to rearrange it. I'm going to select this here, and we'll see the new interface and a couple of new options here. So let's just zoom out a little bit. And let's have a look. There we go. I'm just going to grab a little bit of the castle and a little bit of the old town. Okay, so some of these things came last year, but this interface and some of these other options I'm going to show you now are new. If you didn't see it or you're not aware of it, we now have a couple of different options for map providers. So if we just wanted to pull through that 2D satellite data, previously it was just digital globe, and that is Trimble's solution. However, in many locations, the quality of the digital globe imagery wasn't quite so good enough. We've now got the option to be able to pull through Bing maps directly, which are often a lot higher resolution, which is nice. You'll also see we have the option here to either pull through satellite imagery or street map data from OpenStreetMaps. We can pull that into the model. I'm going to stick with satellite imagery. And we'll also see some other options here now too. So it always did this in SketchUp. When we pull through a location, it'll pull through the flat geometry of the actual, I can't get my words out now, satellite imagery. It would also pull through a 3D mesh of the topology, which was kind of hidden away. It makes that a little bit clearer that it's going to do that. And we also have a few extra options for what level of detail that we want to pull through from Bing Maps in this case. I'm just going to bring it through in medium. We'll just import that there. Hopefully this won't take too long to do. Yeah, there we go. I can think of a few things to say just for the few seconds whilst this is going on, but I don't think I even need to. Let's go into our model and have a look at this. A lot of these new features all tie into this new graphics engine, actually. The fact that SketchUp can handle geometry better than it ever could means that Trimble are able to kind of offer up things that they were perhaps a little bit apprehensive to offer previously. So we've got our 2D plane just here. I feel like I am missing something. 2D plane, it's all visible, isn't it? What's going on? That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So it's hidden by tags. So I can actually turn on my, in my tag area, we can turn on some basic terrain. I think this is pretty approximated. I don't know how this is generated by Bing, but we get something, and that in itself can be useful. You'll see in other areas, depending on the quality of the data, that sometimes the buildings seem to have been averaged into that terrain, but we get something, and that's useful in itself. However, what if we want to go a few steps further than what we can do here? So I'm going to stop here and say we're going to have a look at an extension. And we're going to have a look at an extension, which is a paid extension called Placemaker. This is something we sell. Your account manager at Man & Machine can help you with this as well. It's around about £197 per year. Just put that up there, up front. But we'll show you what it does, because it's something that a lot of people would really benefit from. So we're moving on from new features to extensions in some way here. So I'm just going to open up our Placemaker extension, which is this one here. And if you've never seen Placemaker before, Placemaker allows us to very easily and quickly, for example, pull in some road data from OpenStreetMaps as geometry. Let's just hide that there. Roads. There we go. So we get some geometry, which of course we can then interact with and do what we need to do with. We can use it to grab some kind of simple context as well. So I've just hidden my 2D plane. Bring that back. Let's grab some buildings, and I'm going to randomize the height, and I'm going to leave the roofs off for now. Let's pull that through, and that will go to OpenStreetMaps, and it will generate some geometry based upon the information that OpenStreetMaps have. So we can very, very easily and quickly with this extension get some kind of context for our city. Again, useful. You'll notice here it's all on a flat plane now. That's on limitation with OpenStreetMaps. But maybe if you're on a small area, maybe that's okay. So this stuff we've been able to do for a while in Placemaker, and it's often super useful. Really, really useful thing to be able to do. Let me delete these for now, and I'll show you what we can do now. And this is the kind of more exciting bit. This is the bit I wanted to share with you. Placemaker now has support for the beta of the Google 3D Tiles API. So Google, for the first time, have actually made the data from Google Earth and Google Maps available to 3D applications. You have to go away and register for an API key from Google, which you can do for free on their Google Cloud Console. But essentially, what we can do is, I'm going to pull through the lowest quality just for speed. We can grab the 3D Google Maps data. Oh, sorry, I'm clicking the wrong things. Try that. Okay, so very quick and easy. We get full 3D data from Google. We can choose a few different levels of detail. I've just gone for the low one there. We can see that the way that Google automatically generates these, that might not be good enough for us. However, let's find ourselves a nice little view and just think about how we're going to improve this. So my castle's quite nice there. What we can essentially do here, if we didn't pull them through in high enough detail, and they are pretty ugly. I think most of these are quite ugly. I'm going to just select a few. You see it pulled them through as individual tiles, which we can work with. And they come through as blocks. I'm going to actually increase the quality. I'm going to go all the way up to high for these ones, because these are all visible on my viewport. If you refine selected tiles, it will go through and it will pull through the next level of detail from Google. You see that's getting better. And I'm going to pull through, I'm going to do it again actually, just see if we can do one step further. It's essentially subdividing all of those blocks and grabbing increasingly more and more data. We have to be quite sensible with this, because again, you can very, very quickly overload your model, especially if you're doing a huge, huge area with thousands and thousands of textures and thousands of pieces of geometry. However, this is super, super amazing. People have always asked how we can do this inside of SketchUp, and it's always been a little bit sketchy because whilst you could, the data was never licensed for it. So you could potentially get yourself in trouble. I mean, technically, you could do that by screenshotting a piece of Google Maps and using that in commercial work. But this, they've kind of opened it up a little bit. So, of course, do your due diligence and go and read your license agreement for your Google 3D Maps. Just make sure that you're all covered, but super useful. And we can do it again. Some of these blocks have still got remaining data for me to pull through, but I can just keep iterating further and further into this, making it more and more detailed. It's kind of quite fun to watch it all sort of build. I quite like it. It's like a sort of little time lapse of a city being made. That's how I like to imagine it anyway. But you know, when you're waiting for things to load, you do anything to make that more interesting, right? Yeah, it's just still thinking. I can't move the camera there whilst I'm doing this. But hopefully you'll get the general gist of what's going on here. And we see actually this is all a lot more usable for either context or for visualization. It's all very interesting how the Google 3D data is generated. And it's super interesting that it's inside of SketchUp here, considering that Google originally bought SketchUp to get users to model all of this stuff for free. Didn't work out because it turns out that users didn't want to model things for free for Google. They just wanted to make stuff and use it for work. So the geometry itself, I believe, is a mixture of generation from the aerial photos that Google have got as part of Google Earth and the scan data that they receive from the cars, and that must be all kind of merged and calculated in some way. So you, again, if you've looked at Google Maps, it will often won't let you get close enough to see it, but you'll see kind of unusual textures and ripples and things in certain places. And of course, the data varies between location, but Google Earth in particular is pretty good for the amount of 3D data that it has. So even in some smaller places, you're quite often able to find that stuff, which is often a limitation of the aerial survey data that exists. And of course, as we know, that data is expensive to buy as well. So the fact that we can kind of do this all inside of one extension with essentially kind of no limits on how we can download stuff, it's pretty good. And in case you have noticed, there are some other options to actually pull through paid data, which you can buy from places like Nearmap and through the Placemaker, through the Placemaker extension. I think they have like a credit system to facilitate you purchasing other things if you need to. But the Google stuff, the OpenStreetMaps, and some other things, again, this all just is pulled through as part of your subscription to Placemaker. I do regret ever so slightly updating all of these in one go because I can't actually do anything whilst this is happening. We must be there. We must be close. I can see things popping in though still. Oh no, still going. Must be there. No, there's one. Right, I think it's stopped. It's just thinking. It's doing its final settling in. There we go. Right. So we can see here now we've gone for that highest level. I'm not going to press that again. That was silly of me. But we can see all of the entities now that make up this block of city. So Placemaker, like I said, it's about £197, probably ex-VAT. But that allows us to grab this data. And once you're in here, of course, this can be used in a multitude of different ways. In fact, one way, just to show you another function of SketchUp, which I haven't mentioned whilst we're here, is let's just have a quick look at SketchUp Diffusion, which is somewhere, there it is, there's my icon for that. This is an extension for SketchUp. This is in also in beta or as part of the SketchUp's lab, but you have access to it with any subscription. We don't know how that will be in future, but certainly you can have a look at it if you haven't. And this is SketchUp's built-in AI image generator or modifier. So I can take, for example, this skyline kind of part of Edinburgh, and we'll actually use what's in the viewport of SketchUp here. In fact, let's grab something. Let's just make this less Edinburgh. Let's just grab a skyscraper. Let's see what we've got. What can we find? That'll do. Dead simple. That's been made by Terminator Chaos. Right, here we go. Let's just ruin Edinburgh. It's just, who needs a park, right? Let's put that there. Don't put me in the control of the skyline of Edinburgh. So we're going to open SketchUp Diffusion here. And essentially what it'll do is it'll take a snapshot of the current viewport as it is. Here we go, and you can update at any point, and we can ask it to apply a style to it. So I could do an aerial rendering, for example, and that'll actually put some text prompts in. If you've used one of these AI image generators before, you'll know that we can put in words and it will use that. So I'm just going to give it a little bit more context and just say it's the Edinburgh skyline on a sunny day. And I would like that. I'm actually going to ask for this to be, I don't want the sort of photorealistic one. I would quite like this to be kind of more illustrative, actually. I think these AI generators do a better deal with things that are a little bit less real sometimes, especially the one in SketchUp here. And I'm going to put that in, I'm going to type in the word illustration. I think it might already be in there. Illustration in the style of, we're going to put it in the style of Tintin, right? Or a French comic. Let's see what happens there. I'm going to hit generate. And it's going to take the image that's in the viewport there, spin it through the AI image regurgitator, and give us a few options to be able to choose from. Let's go a bit bigger with that then, so we can see, yeah. Very quickly, we can see that it's assumed that skyscraper, interestingly, is kind of in the style of Edinburgh. Well, it's very kind of it to jump to such conclusions. Of course, we could try and direct it a little bit more by using some other prompts or some other words. But again, this can be a quick way just to tart up an image that's perhaps not so great. But yeah, SketchUp Diffusion, that's another new feature. Okay. Right, so I think we'll just jump back and make sure that I am in the right place. Yes, we are. We'll have a quick look at two other things. We had a look at these last year, but we'll show you these now just in case you're not familiar or you didn't get to join us last year. And these are a couple of the features, functions of SketchUp Studio, which is the highest tier subscription available for SketchUp. So SketchUp Studio includes all of the things that the SketchUp Pro subscription includes. So SketchUp for web, SketchUp for desktop, SketchUp for iPad. I can't remember what else is there. SketchUp Diffusion, Trimble Connect, some of the things we've talked about here and a whole load more. But it also includes 3 additional products and features. One is something called Trimble Scan Essentials, which is an extension that allows us to view point clouds natively inside of SketchUp. It also includes the new Revit RVT importer, which will show you. You can import your Revit files directly into SketchUp. And it also includes V-Ray, which I've not written down here, the V-Ray render engine for SketchUp specifically included in that package. So a little bit more expensive, but has those extra bits in. So let's jump in and have a look at some of these SketchUp Studio things. I'm going to create a new file, and we'll import a point cloud. So the reason I'm going to show this, we won't do a whole session on Scan Essentials. I just wanted to show you one of the new functions within Scan Essentials, which people had been asking for, and I think it's just worth a quick glimpse. So it's just dealing with itself there. I've got multiple SketchUps open. Let me get rid of that one as well. Okay, so Scan Essentials is this bar here. And I can basically open a point cloud from some of the common formats. I'm going to grab this land development one. I think E57, LAS. I think those are some of the common ones. We can open those natively, as well as things that have been created by Trimble scanners or robo-dogs or drones or whatever it is. And we get a few tools to be able to visualize our point cloud directly inside of SketchUp. And of course, because we're inside of SketchUp, we can then start using this to essentially reference from, not only can you snap to SketchUp geometry, but you can actually snap to individual points. So you could, in theory, start to build around that or import your models around that. Okay, so in a nutshell, Scan Essentials. We've got some other videos on this from previous years. Go and look them up if you need, or have any questions. Of course, reach out and ask me. This is what I should be saying. Get in touch. But one of the new bits they've added in this year, which people had asked for, is the option to turn our point cloud into a mesh. Now, this is something we can do usually inside of the software where the point cloud has been generated from. However, one of the sort of typical use scenarios for point clouds is that they get dumped on someone and you've got to work with what you were given. But I'm going to just show you how that works. We have essentially this button here, create ground mesh. And for the sake of speed, I'm going to make the cell size of the ground mesh quite big, 4 meters. And I'm going to make it so it fits the point cloud. There's also a couple of other options, so we can make it just rectangular or bounded, which you do, I can't remember what that is, but we'll just do the fit point cloud. So it's just going to create a mesh based upon the point cloud there. And if I hide my point cloud, we can see here, yeah, we've got a mesh that's been generated from the point cloud. If I'd have used smaller cells, each one of these cells is 4 meters, as we said. We can pull more and more data from the point cloud. In fact, you can directly refine it. So if I just wanted to refine this one, let's do a few. These ones here, we can pull through the next level of detail from the point cloud. It'll regenerate the mesh for those selected things. So we'll keep doing that. It's not just subdividing it, it's actually grabbing the data from the point cloud that sits underneath it. For speed, I'm not going to do anything more than that on this stream here, because that would be silly. But what you'll notice is that my buildings and my trees and things have gone. So this has created a ground mesh using some algorithms. It's actually removed some of those things to give us purely the ground. Again, really, really useful. So you can imagine how you could go away and use that inside a SketchUp project very easily. Another thing I really like they've added in here, they've got the option to create a solid mesh. So it will take that mesh it's generated and create a SketchUp manifest solid. And this is in itself also really useful, because if you don't use, if you've got a SketchUp solid, we can actually then use the SketchUp solid tool. So for example, I want to take this cube, which is kind of meant to be representative of some kind of structure, and I'm going to subtract it from that ground. Just let it work. We can start to actually sculpt or carve out parts of our terrain, which again, you can imagine how you might be able to use that. So Scan Essentials, these new things, really great, really like those. So let's drop that out. Now our last thing, which again, you may already be familiar with, where are we, that one? Let's do the Revit importer. Do I want to? No, I don't want that. So I'll get rid of that. So we have the Revit importer, and essentially, you may have seen this, but we can now, kind of self-explanatory, import a Revit model. And I'm going to import that sample project that we had earlier. And SketchUp's going to go through that RVT file. It only works with RVD files. It doesn't work with families. It's intended for those projects, and it's going to convert those native Revit files into kind of native SketchUp objects. So it shouldn't take too long for this to happen, despite it being a reasonably large file. It's about 135 meg, which is fairly big. And that file actually contains images and other stuff in the Revit project. I shouldn't have said this won't take too long. Oh no, it's going. That was an awkward silence there. It's going 90, 100%. Come on, 100%. Was that so hard? You're there. I know you're there. Just that little bit more. Just that little bit more. And this is why we should pre-record all of this. And then I could have just sped these up and pretended it happened instantly. However, this is the real world. Here we go. So it's imported almost 3,000 elements. It's given us some information there about what's going on. Just let that finish up, grabbing it. But we will see, we're back to where we were earlier actually. So we've got our Revit file alongside all of the internal geometry and whatnot that existed in there. And these have all come through with tags and things that have been interpreted in SketchUp. So we can start to remove parts of it, change that view, change that visibility, and do what we need to do with it. So this is, again, really useful, we find, for visualizers who maybe just get provided with that RVT file. And this can be really great starting point to be able to work on some visuals. So I think that is everything I need to talk about there. I'm going to just go back. If you have any questions, by all means, get in touch. We did that one. There we go. Hopefully you saw some things there that are of interest to you or you see as valuable or useful. If you have any questions, by all means, reach out directly to me, or you can visit us on create.shop, our website. There's a live chat on there, and they can put you in touch with me there on live chat if you want, or you can give us a call, however you want to talk to us. If you need any more information about the products or would like to purchase any or upgrade any of your subscriptions, which you can do, you can upgrade and keep your current terms. So if you need the Revit importer and you've only got 3 months left until you renew, we can do that for the last 3 months for you. Let us know, and thank you ever so much. So I'm going to hand it back over to Man and Machine Gang. Thank you.